I'm not gonna even do the music intro anymore. I realized I didn't click the button. So you know what? Now we're here. I'm Rick. That's Josiah Johnson. I am really happy to welcome him in. I already gave like a pretty, I'd say like C- intro, so I'm glad I get to do it over. So look, man, if you guys know anything about social media, if you guys know anything about a person who will own the space when games are on, when games are not on, yada yada, this is your guy because he knows how to be educational, informative, and yet very entertaining at the same time. So, Josiah, thank you for taking the time to be on this show. Whatever this show is, I still don't know what it is, but I'm glad you're here with me. My first question was, do you like being called the king of NBA Twitter? Just so we have it on the record.
I do not believe in titles, so if people want to call me that, more power to them. It definitely helps me get jobs, but yeah, I'm just regular plain old Josiah.
How did you? So look. This guy has put in the rounds. Okay, he has put in the work. He didn't just become this guy. And I'll pull up your Twitter so everybody can see it right now. Like he is not just this dude that it's like, oh, it's not like man, this is dating myself. It's not that Twista song where he's an overnight celebrity. Like this dude put in hard work to get to where he is today. He was a writer on Colin in Black and White. He worked for the NFL Network. He had a show on Comedy Central. And we'll talk about that in a second. He worked for Jim Rome's show. I mean, you've done so many different things. How do you think all of those have helped pretty much cultivate the person you are and the approach you have to the media game today?
I mean, all that stuff is instrumental. I think, when people look at the stuff I do now and, on the social side, it's all kind of second nature to me, just from all those years and years of experiences working at NFL Network, like you mentioned, working with Showtime, working all over the world, working with Comedy Central, just to be quick, fast with it. Like, when you're working at NFL Network on Sundays, it's a madhouse. You got 14, 15 games going on, all types of highlights, info, all these different stuff that needs to be, disseminated and gotten out to the public as quickly as possible. So you got to be quick on your toes, got to be ready for pretty much anything, any curveballs that happen. And that's just my approach to social. I try to, really focus on live moments or things that are going on in the trending pop culture world and just stay ready at all times. You know what I mean? Like, it's funny, I talk to a lot of people who work in social and they'll kind of tell you, my thing about social, if you talk to somebody who works in social and they tell you they have a shift or whatever that means, then they don't really work in social. Social, you got to be ready 24/7.
Yes.
I could wake up sometimes 2, 3 in the morning and some news might have just broke completely unexpected out of the blue, but just got to be ready to go with a take, with an opinion, with something that'll create conversation, create engagement. So I just try to stay as ready as possible at every moment. And now through a lot of repetition, trial and error practice and things like that, I've gotten to establish myself as one of the premier people in the space. So I just kind of keep rocking with that and, hope it leads to better things.
I was just going to ask you, because I feel like you never turn it off. Is it difficult to just go to bed?
It's hard. My phone's constantly in my hand. Screen time is off the charts. Vision will get a little blurry at times from staring at the screen so much. But that's the thing about social. You got to you never know really what it's going to be until it happens. So you got to be constantly scrolling and searching the timeline, seeing what people are talking about. Obviously during live moments like House of the Dragon came out last night and everybody's going to be buzzing, zooming, talking about that. Or during a live NBA game, of course, everybody's watching. All the eyes are on that. But for these, these down times, when there's no basketball going on,
right.
Summer League just ended. We're getting ready for preseason. Obviously, football, college football, all that stuff is ramping up. But these are the moments where I really try to distinguish myself and just show what I'm about. Because, when everybody's watching the game, of course, we might all see that moment, that thing that everybody's going to be talking about. But in the off season, you still got to figure out ways to, get your content out there, still grow your following, still build. So for me, it's just trying to find, whatever the stories are, whatever people are talking about, and really just enter those conversations.
What was Kevin Garnett like?
Legend. It's funny, man. So I did KG's show. I didn't know what to expect. Normally,
right.
there's a little bit of pregame banter or whatever before you go on. Dude just walks in, the camera start rolling, and it took me like a good 2 or 3 minutes to realize, like, damn, we're on right now. Which you work in the space, you're always on whenever you're doing anything, of course. Sure. But he just kept talking and asked questions. I'm like, oh damn, this is an actual interview. But super passionate dude. I had the pleasure of meeting him years and years and years ago We both played for the same AAU program. He actually got flown into Las Vegas for a tournament to play with Paul Pierce, and I was on one of the younger teams. So he's been just a legend to me since then, and to be able to be a guest on the show was phenomenal.
I've noticed that it's not that necessarily that you shied away from it, because this is what our audience absolutely loves, is the political tweets.
Yeah.
One that you put up recently that I'll put up for everybody was about Ron DeSantis.
Yeah.
That I fucking adore, okay? Now, the reason I adore it, and I know our audience adores it, is because woke went from, like, the chorus in Redbone with Childish Gambino and even prior to that, to now it's just an overused word that means like 50 million things, right? So when you're looking at DeSantis and you're seeing what he's doing with Florida and then using a word incorrectly, was it easy to pivot to Hulk Hogan with this?
Yeah, pretty basic. I think the thing about Ron is he's an idiot, and I look, NBA, Twitter, sports is my general bread and butter, but I'm also a pop culture guy, interested in a bunch of different things, like to put this UCLA education to use. So whenever I see anything going on, as you know, I worked on the show with Colin Kaepernick, was a big Cap fan even prior to that, and just really, really appreciative of everything he did and using his platform to raise awareness. So now that I've built this following, it's funny, man, like some of my biggest moments in terms of engagement and growing following have been during, political times. The election of 2020 comes to mind specifically. And yeah, I like to use, satirical humor and things like that, but to also draw attention and do it in a way where I know a lot of people on social, they don't want people to be preachy or breathing down their throats and stuff. So if I can figure out ways to show that somebody's an idiot with a meme, I'm happy to do it. Ron DeSantis is an extremely easy target.
Absolutely.
And, just watching that whole, I don't even know what to call it when he was talking about, woke is where, Florida's where woke goes to
USA
die.
Conference.
Yeah, woke is Florida's where woke goes to die. And the thing that I always harp on, I'm sure a lot of people do as well. I just want to hear how these people define woke. What do they really think that woke means? And like you said, it now it's taking on so many different meanings, and how are they using it in a sense? I love to see like, some spelling bee type of thing where it's just like, all right, what's the actual definition of this word that you're using? And I feel like that side really throws it around, like you mentioned, in a way that it was never intended. And it's ultimately like, does woke mean educated? Does woke mean, aware of the things that are going on in this world? Are we just supposed to pretend that, it's funny too, just seeing everything going on with the former president and how that stuff is so quickly flipped and shifted and changed. The locker up chants have now, died away. And it's like, damn, bro, you literally got caught up for the same shit that you were trying to pack up Hillary for. And just to see all their quotes, I think Timothy Burke, who's a legend, did a great video mashup, I think with DeSantis on Tucker Carlson, one of those guys' shows, but literally saying, speaking about Hillary, but saying the exact things that Trump did and how quickly they'll shift the narrative and change things up. And now, now everything they meant previously, oh, wait, it's not supposed to apply to us. So anytime I get a chance to pack somebody up of that's an idiot like Ron DeSantis, more than happy to do it for the people. And also for a lot of people who aren't in politics, don't really know what's going on in the world, this kind of raises, piques their interest, and now they're interested in seeing what's going on. They see a tweet coming from me. Obviously, I'm more traditionally sports. They see a tweet come from me. They're going to do a little research dig and realize just how asinine and stupid his comments were about woke.
As many others are, of course, as well, when they're on that side of the aisle. Have you seen what Herschel Walker's doing?
CTE. I don't really, Herschel, it's funny, man. I used to dominate with Herschel in Tecmo Bowl back in the days.
Yeah.
And to see the shift now and where he's going, you definitely feel bad for him. I just don't know what's going on. I feel like somebody needs to have a conversation with him. Maybe too many hits to the head. Not really sure. But, I mean, I'm cognizant of all that stuff. Like I said, I scroll the timeline pretty constantly. So just see everything that's going on in the world. Just also see what the conversations are like, which way people are leaning. And it's funny, man, ever since Trump got packed up by the FBI, all the bots, like, not as many bots, not as much ridiculous stuff going on. I feel like even the bots now are like, yeah, we can't even support this. And we're literally computer programs like this. But this ain't something that we could get into because it's just so ridiculous.
Right. It kind of says something that nobody will represent him as well.
I saw there's so much misinformation, so much different stuff out there. I mean, I'm sure, really the only issue would be lawyers just getting paid, which I know he has a
Yes.
reputation and history of not paying bills and not paying debts off. So, I'm sure there's a lot of lawyers out there that are a little concerned that they're not going to get their hourly fee out of them if they do represent them.
He's the opposite of a Lannister. I saw somebody wrote, they said, DeSantis is fucking creepy. Says punk on a bike via Twitch chat. Another one said, a great host on our network, Dr. Rashad Ritchie, refers to him as the Honorable Mr. DeSatan. And that is via Drenger. That is via Drenger Dragon. I mean,
The honorable.
the honorable Mr. DeSatan. Obviously, I'd rather have neither, but if it were to come down to Trump or DeSantis, who would you who it's a horrible question. I understand it's a horrible question.
I get it. We're
Which,
in the media.
Yeah, we're in the media. Which by a slither would you rather have representing that side?
Probably DeSantis. I think it's crazy now, the Trump base, and I respect all human beings, respect all people, but just the lunacy and ridiculousness, and the way that they'll take talking points that he says that are I can declassify whatever I want. It's like, no, there's a process, chief. It's just simple stuff that a quick Google search and some basic level of intelligence will quickly debunk, but still holding out dear hope. So
Right.
I can't really. Those 4 years were pretty difficult for a lot of people, especially going in the pandemic and all that stuff. Can't really imagine 4 more years of that. And I don't think DeSantis can win. So I'd rather have him be up there. I think Trump, as crazy as it sounds, especially with all the stuff they're doing with voting rights and all that type of stuff, there's a potential that we could get 4 more years of the Cheeto. So I don't think DeSantis has a chance in hell. So I'd rather see him get it.
Another Twitch commenter said you're accurate and said DeSantis can at least be debated.
Like,
which is true.
It just like it's the level of a fourth grader in terms of, and the crazy thing now on social, on the Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all that stuff, people will make these ridiculous arguments. Like I had a guy I know I've been friends with for a long time start telling me about due process and all this other stuff. And it's like, Chief, how do you think you get a warrant? Like that's what due process literally is. You have to, present the information, get a judge to sign off on. You don't just like show up at Mar-a-Lago. You're literally doing process. Like that's the due process part of it. So the way that people kind of just rally behind them and literally won't just look at themselves in the mirror and realize how dumb some of the shit they're saying is problematic. But this is America. This isn't the first time it's happened. It won't be the last.
I agree with that. Let me go back to something that that we talked about previously, which was your work on Colin in Black and White. Great Netflix show. Everybody should check it out. Josiah was a writer. It was directed by Ava DuVernay. It was about Colin Kaepernick's life. And the thing is that I commend you for is, yes, we are both in the media space, but you were so gracious with me just reaching out via Twitter and having a chat with me when I was there, like, picking my nose, not really like having social anxiety for like being out for one of the first times during the pandemic. So
you weren't alone.
Yeah, exactly. So I really appreciate that. But more so, I've heard you talk about the workout. Obviously, I've gone over this stuff a shit ton on this network. Knowing what you know after working with the NFL network, is there any... Let me see how to phrase this. Is there any insights that you have into, them pulling this or that with the workout makes sense from their perspective, considering that you worked there previously?
It's funny, man. So literally we started production on the show, started the writer's room the week that Colin was supposed to come in for a couple of days, like 3 or 4 8-hour days, really kind of just break down his whole life. Literally the first day he came in was the day he found out about the workout. And I remember even sitting there with the rest of the writers in the room and like, this feels fishy. Like they're doing a workout on a Saturday. It's the middle of college football season. Which scouts are going to actually be there?
Yes.
And from the jump, it just kind of felt like a sham. Colin was super, he was so excited to have that opportunity, but also very cognizant. And I think that was even, he had to go take off to Atlanta to go do it. But it's like, look, the lawyer's got to look at the paperwork, make sure everything is good. And that's the one thing about Colin that I really respect, that he's not going to just move willy-nilly. Obviously, everything he does is very strategic, and he makes sure that it makes sense before he does it. So, going out there, we were super happy for him. Obviously, he ran an audible, did a workout under his own, with his own control over it, was phenomenal in that workout, and I think showed that he's definitely deserving of an opportunity to play in the NFL. But, I have a ton of love and respect for NFL, ton of great friends that I've worked with there, and really appreciate all the opportunities they provided me. But this is also a league that's been pretty inconsistent in terms of how they move. When you talk about, things like black players, trying to get, some of that CTE lawsuit money, and them believing that, black players weren't as smart as white players, and just simple things like that, the stories that have come out. So it's been tough on the PR side. I mean, Deshaun Watson, even as the latest example of that. And for me, there's a lot of haters and naysayers of Colin. And it's like, I just it's kind of going back to the DeSantis kind of woke thing. It's like, what are you mad at Colin about? Like, are you madder at Colin Kaepernick for taking a knee to raise awareness for social injustices than you are for Deshaun Watson settling like 24 lawsuits or whatever it is?
24, 25, I believe.
There's been guys in the league that literally kill people that have gotten treated better than Colin has. So it's ultimately like, what are you really mad about? Like, what has angered you so much to the point where you'll say, obviously, a guy, and don't get me wrong, I'm not saying whatever, Colin, whatever your opinions of him are, he was a phenomenal quarterback when he got the opportunity. Everybody kind of harks on that last season he had.
He was a record setter, man.
But, don't want to talk about the shoulder injury and the knee issues and all that other stuff. He's literally coming back from injury plagued season, which if we've learned anything from watching the NFL, especially during these preseason games, is like, that's a part of the game. Like, you got all types of guys tearing ACLs and all types of injuries that are definitely career altering. So they're kind of holding Colin to the standard based off 1 year while overlooking all the amazing stuff he did. I told Colin to his face, like, I'm a Raiders fan. He's the only human being on this planet that would have me wearing a Niners jersey.
That's saying a lot. Dead Poets Anxiety, thank you for subbing with Prime. Josiah was talking about race norming, which was a practice that went on because the NFL did not want to pay out black players who were part of the concussion lawsuit, and those totals were high. So basically, if you're unaware, they used a practice that is very racist. Many sports sociologists have said this is incredibly racist, which points to the hypocrisy of you can't end racism in the back of your end zones and then also have racial discrimination practices so you could save a buck. That was the biggest hypocrisy. So that's what he's pointing to. On the cap point, what pissed me off the most was you talked about the shoulder issues, and then the right-wing talking point was, well, he lost his starting job. No, he didn't lose his starting job. He was out because he had surgery, which opened the door for Blaine Gabbert to play in the preseason. Another thing is the offensive line was injury ravaged that year that he was playing. And lastly, if any quarterback today, let's say Chase Daniel, were to go out and have 16 touchdowns and 4 interceptions in a season, people would be like, holy fuck, Chase Daniel's the next Nick Foles. No. Chase Daniel can easily do this and easily do that. So there's a lot to it. I obviously agree with you with everything with the Deshaun Watson stuff. To go back to the workout, the other thing that really struck me, because I have gone to one of Colin's workouts when he was here, he wanted the film crew to be there, which is a big thing because he wanted to control the narrative of, well, basically the NFL in that waiver was like, we're going to make you sign your rights away so you can never sue the National Football League again, and then you can't have your own crew there. Yeah. So it was a double fuck you to Colin and his team to say, we're potentially going to show your shitty throws or your off-target throws. So I honestly can't blame him. However, in the writer's room, what was he like behind the scenes? Like, I've hung out with him before. He's super cool, but like, what was he like in that creative space?
Funny, man. He's got a great sense of humor, funny dude. And the thing about the show, we're looking at his high school years, formative years, but he was super open, super transparent, and very hands-on. Obviously, I think as any of us, if somebody's telling a story about our lives, we want to make sure that they're telling it accurately. So, he was super available, but just, what I'm saying? Like, I'm 6'7" too. So I see him walk in the room and he's like 6'4", 6'5". And I'm just like, damn, man, I can only imagine trying to tackle this dude on a football field just with the grace and style that he had, but super humble, very, very polite to everywhere and like easy to work with, man. And it was just special for me to be able, obviously seeing him from afar and support his movement, but to meet him up close, shake his hand, look him in the eye, have a conversation with him. It's funny, man, first thing, we're kind of going around the room and everybody's asking him questions. And the first question, because I had to know, obviously I got a journalist media background. I'm like, yo, And everybody's saying you don't want to play football. Do you not want to play football? And he just gave me this crazy look like, don't ever ask me no stupid shit like that ever again. And I apologize, but I'm like, yo, Colin, you know, this is what everybody's saying. I needed to hear it from your mouth. I got you in this room. I need to know because everybody's telling me you don't want to play and this, that, and whatever. He was like, man, you got to be kidding me. I'm still working out 5 days a week, you know, still training, still holding out hope to get that dream back going. And it's really sad to see, especially in the world we live now, where you have all these issues and there's still all these situations going on that, you know, this guy who I think if people watch that series, the one takeaway you should take from it is just how hard he fought to even be a quarterback. Only had one scholarship offer coming out of high school, went on to Nevada, you know, was a record-setting quarterback with his legs and his arm. I think, you know, total yards and all that.